When did I stop having a voice in my own home? That's the question I keep asking myself again and again whenever I sit quietly in the living room, watching the lives around me unfold as if I'm just a shadow on the wall. Once upon a time, I was the one who held everything together. I was the voice that echoed through these rooms with certainty. The one who knew where every sock was, who remembered every birthday, who gave every piece of herself so this family could grow, thrive, and be whole. But now I feel like a guest in my own story, like I'm just someone they let stay here. Do you ever feel like that? Like one day, without realizing it, you went from being the heart of the home to being background noise, faint, faded, almost forgotten. It's not that they're cruel, no. I know my children love me, but love can take strange shapes when mixed with fear, control, and expectations. These days, I watch as decisions are made without me. Plans are discussed while I'm sitting right there, as if my silence were a given. My opinions, they bounce off the walls. My needs, treated like afterthoughts. And my memories, those moments when I was the one holding everything up, they feel like pages from someone else's book now. I'm still the same person. I have the same name, the same heart. I still feel joy when I hear music, still get excited about making a favorite meal. But slowly, subtly, I became invisible. And I don't think anyone even noticed. That's the part that stings. When your presence becomes so normalized that your absence wouldn't interrupt a single plan. Living with your adult children can be a blessing, they say. I'm lucky. And I am, in some ways. I have a roof. I have family. But what happens when that roof becomes a ceiling you can't rise above? When that family care starts to feel like quiet erasure? Sometimes I want to scream just to remember what it feels like to take up space. To walk into a room and not feel like I have to apologize for existing. I'm not just here to be cared for. I'm not just aging. I'm living. Still breathing. Still growing. Still becoming. But no one seems to ask me what I want anymore. They assume. They decide. They manage. What you're going to hear in this story isn't just mine. It belongs to so many women, mothers, grandmothers who spent decades being the glue, only to feel like they've become the dust. If that stirs something in your chest, even just a little, stay with me. What you'll hear next might make you look at your mother, or maybe even yourself, in a whole new way. Now I want to go even deeper into this story. And maybe you're sitting there thinking, I've felt that too. Or maybe you've seen someone you love slowly stop being invited into their own life. If this resonates with you even a little, I'd really love to know. Tell me what spoke to your heart. Share a moment, a memory, or just how this story makes you feel. Because when we speak up, we remind each other that we're not alone. And I believe these conversations matter. Not just for us, but for everyone who's ever felt invisible under their own roof. If this story has touched something in you, take a second to click the like button. It may seem small, but it helps this message travel, helps it reach someone who might be feeling just like I did. And if you want to walk alongside these stories, hear more truths, and be part of a space that honors real voices, I invite you to subscribe. Your presence here makes this community stronger, warmer, and more human. Now I want to go even deeper into this story. It's the little things that speak the loudest. You'd be surprised how silence can echo through a house, louder than any argument. Like when dinner is planned and no one asks me what I'd like to eat. Or when I hear the door open and realize someone is visiting, and no one thought to tell me. They're not trying to be cruel, I tell myself, but still, the sting is there. When plans are made for the weekend outings, errands, even simple things like what time we'll leave or where we're going, there's always this unspoken assumption, I'll just follow along, I'll just adapt, I'll just be quiet. At first, I didn't notice, or maybe I chose not to. I thought it was just a phase. Life was busy, everyone was distracted. But then it kept happening, again and again. Decisions being made around me, above me, without me. Not because I couldn't participate, but because no one thought to include me. That's what hurts the most. Not the exclusion itself, but the feeling that my opinion has quietly slipped off the table, that my preferences no longer matter. And when I try to speak up, to suggest something as simple as changing the menu or offering a different time for a visit, I see the pause. That look, as if they're indulging me, like I'm a child with a whimsical idea. It chips away at something inside you. Dignity doesn't leave with a single moment, it erodes, slowly, in quiet neglect. A glance, a shrug, a missed question. A room where your presence is no longer noticed, except when you're in the way. I've started questioning whether I should say anything at all, whether it's worth the effort to express a thought or a preference. Because being ignored after speaking feels worse than not speaking at all. I know they love me, I do. But love without respect can start to feel like pity, and pity is a heavy coat to wear. There are days when I stay in my room longer than I need to. Not because I'm tired, but because that space, at least, feels like mine. My things, my choices, my silence. It's a strange kind of freedom, one I never thought I'd have to cling to. It's in those moments that I remember who I used to be. The woman who once chose the color of the walls, who planned the holidays, who gave the house its warmth. Now, I feel like a shadow passing through the hallways of a place that no longer waits for my voice. And yet, I'm still here. Still thinking, still feeling, still yearning for connection. But connection built on presence, not obligation. On mutual respect, not quiet obedience. Comment there. That makes sense to me. I started noticing the shift not only in conversations but in corners, in how literal space began to disappear. It was subtle at first. A chair I used to sit in moved to another room. A shelf that once held my books, now filled with someone else's things. Even my favorite blanket went missing one day, and no one seemed to know where it had gone. It's strange how these little changes can chip away at something much larger inside you. I used to have a whole life spread across this house. My energy was in every room, through the curtains I picked, the meals I cooked, the little touches only a mother would think to add. Now, it feels like I've been reduced to a single room, a door I keep half closed, a drawer in the kitchen, a seat at the table no one asks if I'm comfortable in, and emotionally, it's no different. The space I once occupied with my presence, my opinions, my laughter. It's like it all got packed away in some box that no one opens anymore. It's not about being the center of attention. It's about being seen. About feeling like you still matter, even in the smallest decisions. But now, I hesitate before speaking. I question whether my ideas will be taken seriously. I hold back even my thoughts because, over time, the message has become clear: there isn't much room for me here anymore. Not really. I've been told it's not personal, that it's just life moving forward, that my children are busy, that they don't mean to exclude me. But intentions don't always match the impact. And the truth is, when you feel like your presence is a burden instead of a blessing, even the air feels heavier around you. I sometimes walk into a room and feel like I have to apologize for existing in it. What hurts most is not just the lack of space, but the feeling that I must shrink to fit into what's left. I used to be full of stories, of plans, of life. Now I try not to take up too much room. I lower my voice. I step aside. I wait until everyone else has finished speaking before I dare to add something. And even then, I feel like I'm interrupting. You begin to lose the right to your own rhythms. When you wake, what you eat, where you sit, even silence feels scheduled. There's a sense that your presence must adapt entirely to the flow of the house, instead of the house holding space for who you are. And that's the core of its space. Not just walls and furniture, but emotional ground to stand on, to belong. Sometimes I think about how different it all felt years ago. How my children would run to me with questions. How my opinion was not only welcomed but sought after. And now the smallest suggestion seems to ruffle feathers. If I say I'd like to eat earlier, I'm being difficult. If I express that I miss my old routines, I'm not being flexible. So I swallow it all. Again, I fold my thoughts into smaller and smaller shapes, hoping they'll fit into the shrinking box I've been given. And it's not just about comfort, it's about identity. Because when your space disappears physically and emotionally, what's left of you starts to fade too. You begin to doubt your own relevance. You wonder, silently, how long before you disappear entirely. There's no plaque on the wall that says Mom lives here, no photo album being updated, no room that feels like it holds your essence anymore. And with that comes a kind of grief no one talks about. It's not loud. It doesn't come with tears. It's quiet, like dust settling over memories no one seems to touch anymore. But I remember who I was, and in the deepest parts of me, I still am her. The one who used to hum in the kitchen while stirring soup. The one who planned birthdays with magic in her hands. The one who held everyone else's pain without being asked. That woman still exists. She just doesn't know where to stand anymore. Comment: I'm on this journey too. There's a certain moment, and you don't even notice when it begins. It starts soft like a hug that lingers too long, like a hand that gently turns your wrist when you're trying to reach for something. It sounds like love. It looks like love. But slowly, it becomes something else. That's how control dressed up as care sneaks in. At first, I was grateful. "Let me do that for you, Mom," they'd say. "You don't need to go out alone, or don't worry, I'll choose what's best." And I didn't argue. How could I when someone says it's for your safety? How do you say no without sounding ungrateful? But over time, that help became routine. Then it became a rule. Then it became a requirement. One day I was choosing my own clothes, and the next, they were telling me which sweater was more appropriate. One day I was making my grocery list, and the next, they were saying, "We've already ordered everything for the week, no need to make one." And it's not that. They're cruel. That's what makes it harder. If they were yelling, or being harsh, maybe I'd know how to push back. But they're not. They smile, they say it kindly. "You know, we're just trying to take care of you." And just like that, my freedom is slowly chipped away in the name of love. I remember once, I told them I wanted to take a bus downtown. I had an appointment, and I thought it would be nice to walk a bit, take my time. They were horrified. "What if something happens? What if you get lost?" I laughed and said, "I've been on that route for 30 years. But they wouldn't let it go. They insisted on driving me, waiting outside, walking me back in. And there it was, again. That feeling of being wrapped in a soft prison. Because that's what it is. Even if no one wants to call it that. When every decision has to be checked. When your preferences are quietly overruled. When your silence becomes the only way to keep peace. That's not love. That's a controlled life under the illusion of care. They call it helping. I call it erasing. I know I'm older. I know my body isn't what it used to be. But my mind is still sharp. My spirit is still mine. I haven't signed away my voice. And yet, that's exactly what it feels like. They expect me to be the quiet, agreeable version of myself. The one who nods at every suggestion. The one who doesn't make things harder. What they don't see is the impact of those choices. That every time they take over something for my good, they take something away from me. My independence. My dignity, my ability to decide for myself, even if that decision includes risk or error, because that's part of being human too. It's easy to talk about love, harder to talk about the love that smothers, that silences, that slowly rearranges your life until it no longer feels like your own. And I believe they think they're doing what's right, but intention doesn't erase consequence. And no matter how kind the words sound, the result is the same. I'm fading in a life that used to be mine. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I pushed back, if I said no, thank you, a little louder, if I insisted on making my own mistakes again. Would they listen? Or would they double down, claim I'm being reckless, stubborn, irrational? This is the truth no one likes to say out loud. We age, but we don't disappear. We still want freedom. We still deserve the right to choose, even when it makes others uncomfortable, especially then. Autonomy isn't a luxury. It's a form of respect. It's saying, I still see you as capable. I still believe you have value beyond being protected. I don't want to be fought over. I don't want to be managed. I want to be heard. I want to be treated as someone who knows her own limits, who's allowed to stretch them, fall, and rise again without having to justify every step. Because when care becomes control, when love becomes management, the soul begins to shrink. And if no one notices in time, all that remains is a shell, agreeable, quiet, safe, but hollow. Comment. This makes sense to me now. I want to go even deeper into this subject, because I still remember who I used to be in this very house. The smell of warm bread in the oven, my hands always busy, always building something, meals, memories, moments. I was the heartbeat of this family, the one they ran to when they scraped their knees or broke their hearts. I was the voice that settled arguments, the arms that carried the weight of others' fears, without ever showing my own. I wasn't just present, I was the center, the one who held it all together when things fell apart, the one who remembered birthdays, stitched costumes the night before school plays, stayed up waiting for them to come home safe. I gave structure to chaos, I gave love a home, and now, I feel like a guest in the house I built. It's strange, this shift that no one warns you about. One moment you're the anchor, the reference, the one whose words matter. Then slowly, quietly, you're someone to keep an eye on, someone they talk about instead of talk to. You become the afterthought in the schedule, the passenger on a ride you used to drive. It's not the change that hurts the most. I understand time. I understand that children grow, that life evolves, that roles adapt. What hurts is the silence that came with it, the invisibility. The way they forget I was once the decision maker, the emotional backbone. I didn't stop being that woman, I just got older. But to them, it's like I transformed into someone fragile and incapable the moment my hair turned gray. This isn't about nostalgia for the past. It's about dignity in the present. It's about being remembered not just for what I was, but for who I still am. My memories aren't just keepsakes, they're evidence. Proof that I've led, that I've shaped lives, that I've been strong and wise and capable beyond measure. I've earned the right to be listened to be consulted, not bypassed, to be respected, not managed. There was a time when they hung on to every word I said, when they asked for advice, when they cared what I thought. Now I share an opinion and they smile politely like I'm talking about the weather. That hurts in ways I can't always explain. Because I don't want power, I want presence. I want to feel that I still belong at the center, even if I'm no longer the one doing the heavy lifting. This shift could be gentle, if done with compassion. But when it's abrupt, without conversation, without recognition of all I've done, it feels like exile. Like I've been politely removed from the table and told, "We've got it from here." And the truth is, I don't want the whole table. I just want a chair that's still mine. I want them to remember who taught them to tie their shoes, to drive, to navigate heartbreak. I want them to see that the woman in front of them is still the same person who once walked through storms for their sake. The woman who still has something to say, not because she's clinging to the past, but because she's lived it and learned from it. There's wisdom in these lines on my face. There's a lifetime of insight behind these eyes. I'm not asking to lead the way anymore. I'm asking not to be dismissed. Because the foundation they're walking on, I laid it. The warmth they feel when they come home, I created it. And even now, even in this quieter chapter of my life, I still have value. So when I speak, don't just hear me listen, don't just protect me, comment here. I'm on this journey too, because behind every quiet thank you I say, there's a knot in my chest that doesn't quite let me breathe. Gratitude is supposed to be a beautiful thing, something that flows naturally from the heart. But when it's used like a collar, tugged gently every time I try to lift my head, it turns into something else entirely. Living in my children's house came from necessity, not choice. Life shifted in ways I didn't expect. I had my own rhythm, my own space once. And while I am thankful for a roof over my head and people around me, it often feels like my presence has a price, one that no one says out loud, but I can feel in the air every single day. It's in the hesitation before I speak, the pause I take before asking for anything, as if I'm constantly measuring whether I've earned the right to exist comfortably. They remind me, even subtly, that I'm being taken care of. And maybe they don't mean it cruelly, maybe they truly believe they're just helping. But when that help comes with an unspoken expectation of silence, obedience, or constant gratefulness, it's no longer just support, it becomes power. Quiet, invisible power that presses on my spirit like a weight I'm not supposed to talk about. I find myself overly polite in my own home, saying thank you for a meal I didn't choose, for a schedule I didn't agree to, for rules I didn't set, smiling through conversations I'm not a part of, nodding as if I agree, when all I want is the space to have a thought that matters. I hear things like, "We're just trying to help," or "You should be glad you're not alone," as if that cancels my right to feel unseen. And that's the cruel irony. I am grateful. I truly am. But does that mean I have to surrender my voice, my opinions, my identity? Gratitude should be something that adds warmth between people, not a leash that keeps one person small so the other feels big. I raised my children to be generous, but I never taught them that kindness gives them ownership over someone else's life. This unspoken debt, this idea that I should know my place because I'm being given so much, it chips away at my confidence. I start second-guessing every decision, every sentence, every movement. I wonder, am I asking too much, when all I wanted was to open a window, or suggest a different dinner? And slowly, piece by piece, I begin to disappear from the life I'm living, because gratitude becomes a script I'm forced to read from, even when the words feel wrong. Sometimes, I want to ask, Is love still love if it makes someone feel like a burden? Is care still care if it erases the person it's supposed to protect? I don't want luxury. I don't even need constant attention. I just want to exist without having to apologize for it. I want to feel like my presence is enough, not something that needs to be earned over and over again through humility and silence. And I know I'm not alone in this. So many older parents feel it but don't say it, because the fear of seeming ungrateful is stronger than the pain of being overlooked. We've been conditioned to believe that needing support means forfeiting dignity. But I don't accept that. I can be grateful and still ask for respect. I can receive and still have a voice. One truth does not cancel the other. Comment. This makes sense to me because beneath the surface of my quiet gratitude, there's something even more raw, more real. It's not just about being included in decisions or having space at the table. It's about being seen, truly seen, as a person with thoughts, desires, boundaries, not just tolerated, not just endured, not just mom, not just grandma, but me. It's a strange thing to be surrounded by people and still feel invisible. You move through the house like a shadow, brushing past conversations that happen around you but never with you. You hear decisions made over your head about things that affect your days, your routines, your peace, and yet no one thought to ask your opinion. They assume, they always assume, and that assumption carries weight. It tells you, without words, your voice isn't necessary anymore. That's what hurts the most. Not the aging, not even the limitations that time brings, but the way your identity gets reduced to someone who should just be grateful. As if having a roof over your head cancels your right to be more than background. As if love, real love, can only be expressed through duty and not through shared humanity. I still have thoughts. I still have dreams, preferences, little things that make me light up inside. I still notice beauty in a well-cooked meal, still get excited when the sun comes through the window just right. I still read, I still reflect, I still remember who I am, but it feels like no one else does. Like I've been placed gently into a quiet corner of life, safe, sheltered, but silenced. They think I'm being dramatic when I mention this, that I should feel lucky. You don't have to worry about bills, they say. You have people around you every day. But do I really? Because being surrounded and being seen are two very different things. And what I long for isn't noise or chaos, it's presence. Not the physical kind, but the kind that looks you in the eye and says, you matter. This isn't about pride. It's not about ego. It's about dignity. About being acknowledged as someone who still feels deeply, who still wants to participate in life, not just watch it go by. And I wonder, why is it so easy to forget that aging doesn't erase personhood, that growing older doesn't mean disappearing? There are days when I sit in my room, not because I'm tired, but because there's nothing calling me out. No one asking how I feel about anything, no one inviting me into the moment. And after a while, that silence wraps around you like a second skin. You stop interrupting, even when you want to. You stop correcting misinformation, even when it stings. You stop laughing at jokes that leave you out, because it's easier to just not be noticed at all. But I see myself, and I need that to be enough, until someone else does too. I want to be asked what I think. I want to be trusted with small responsibilities again, not because I'm proving anything, but because it shows that I still count. I want to be remembered for more than the role I once played. I want to be honored for the person I still am, because there's more to life than survival. There's more to existence than shelter. I don't just want to be taken care of. I want to be connected. I want to be known for who I am, not just who I used to be. Comment here. I am on this journey to now. I want to go even deeper into this subject, because beneath all the silence, behind all the missed glances and the polite yes, mom that end the conversation before it begins, there's a truth we're all afraid to face. The gap between generations isn't just about age, it's about understanding, or the lack of it. It's about what happens when we stop listening to each other like equals, and start assuming roles that cage more than they care. I know I'm not the only one who feels it. This invisible curtain that slowly draws between parent and child, once held together by dependence and love, now pulled tight by worry, routine, and unspoken judgments. When did care turn into supervision? When did support start sounding like control? And most of all, when did the mutual respect between us become so conditional? I'm not asking to be idealized. I don't expect to be right all the time, but I do expect to be heard, to have my voice not just tolerated, but considered. I want to have a conversation, not be corrected. I want to be invited in, not simply informed. This doesn't take grand gestures. It takes presence, a real pause, the kind of listening that doesn't rush to respond or redirect, but allows room for being. That's where I believe the healing begins. In the quiet moments where no one is trying to win or prove a point. Just understand, there's so much power in that. In a child asking their mother, "What do you need today?" and actually waiting for the answer. In a mother being able to say, "I don't know, but I'm figuring it out," without it being met with panic or patronizing sighs. Old age is not the erasure of identity. It's the continuation of it, in a new form, and it demands a kind of presence that's even more beautiful, because it's slower, more reflective, deeper. But that presence is only meaningful when it's acknowledged, not pushed aside as fragility, not disguised as burden, not managed like a task. The truth is, reconnection isn't about fixing anything. It's about remembering that we were never broken, that our rhythms changed, yes, but the music is still playing, that we've all evolved, and that evolution includes relearning each other. Children have grown into adults with busy lives, new values, fears they don't always share. And parents have grown into elders with insights, tenderness, and stories that deserve to be told. We've changed, but we're still here. It's okay to start again, to say, "I've been doing it wrong," or "I didn't realize how much you needed to be heard." It's okay for children to learn to speak with their parents, not for them. And for mothers like me to admit that sometimes, yes, we retreat, but not because we've lost interest. We retreat because we're tired of being invisible. Creating emotional space isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Just like physical space, we all need emotional permission to exist freely, without constant correction, without walking on eggshells, without being handled. What we really need is the space to be soft again, and still feel safe, and maybe that's where the real transformation happens. Not in loud apologies or dramatic reunions, but in the quiet shift of energy when someone looks at you and finally sees you. Not your mistakes, not your age, not the obligations, just the person, the one who's still learning, still loving, still here. Because at the heart of it, all I truly want is to be whole again. Not in the way I was at 30 or 40. Not pretending I haven't changed, but to be whole in this version of myself now. The one who carries 1,000 lived days, 100 roles played, and still wakes up every morning hoping to matter. I don't want to be remembered only through stories my children tell about how strong I once was. I want them to see that strength still lives in me, differently shaped, yes, but pulsing, just as loud. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it's found in the quiet resilience of sitting at the edge of a room you no longer feel welcome in, and deciding to stay anyway. Sometimes, it's in the courage of speaking, knowing your voice might be dismissed, and still choosing to speak. That's the kind of strength we're never taught to honor. I think a lot about the invisible battles we older mothers fight. The ones where we smile through subtle dismissals, where we nod when decisions are made for us, where we thank others for things we didn't ask for, just so we don't sound ungrateful. That's the cruel twist of aging. You become thankful for the very crumbs of agency that used to be your birthright. But what if we changed the lens? What if instead of seeing aging as decline, we began to see it as a form of wisdom unfolding in real time? What if we realized that presence, our presence, doesn't expire with age, it deepens? What if our stories weren't interruptions, but necessary chapters in a family's identity? Would we be listened to, then? Because when I walk into a room and no one looks up, I feel that weight. When my opinion is skipped over during a conversation about something that directly affects my life, I carry that silence for hours. And not because I want to control, but because I want to contribute. I want to still feel like I belong. I want my thoughts to be more than tolerated. I want them to be valued, not because I'm older, not because I gave birth, but because I am still me. That's something we don't talk about enough. The grief of staying alive but fading in relevance, of having so much more to say, but no longer being asked. It's a kind of emotional exile. You're there, but you're not really there. You're fed, but not nourished. You're housed, but not held. You exist in the same space, but not in the same spirit. And you start to ask yourself, is this what love looks Like now, transactional, measured, conditional. I don't want to be managed. I want to be met. I don't need someone to fix my every movement or re-explain life to me as if I forgot how to live. I need someone to meet me at eye level and say, I see you. I still see you. Because when love is real, it doesn't shrink a person, it holds space for who they are becoming, even now, especially now. And I know this isn't just about me. There are mothers everywhere, fathers too, who feel the same disconnection, who once stood at the center of the family like a compass, now gently pushed to the corner like a keepsake that no longer fits the decor. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's just thoughtless. Life moves so fast, and we become part of the background, but it doesn't have to stay that way. Awareness is a powerful thing. It opens doors that routine closed. It invites the kind of healing that can only happen when we stop long enough to notice what's missing, and who is missing. And often, the ones who feel most invisible are the very ones who made it all possible in the first place. If you've felt this too, in any way, I'd love to hear from you. Whether you're a mother holding back your truth, or a daughter or son just beginning to see things differently, your story matters. Comment there. I deserve to exist in full. If you've made it this far with me, thank you. Truly, it means more than you know. Sometimes, all we need is to feel heard, to know that someone out there understands the weight of what we carry in silence. If this story stirred something in you, if it reminded you of someone, or opened your heart in a new way, take a second and write in the comments, "This message was for me." That one sentence helps me understand that I'm not speaking into the void, that there are real people on the other side of this screen who feel this too. And if you found something valuable here, a reflection, a new way of seeing, even a small shift in perspective, consider hitting the like button. It helps this message reach others who might be needing it just as much as you did. And if this kind of honest, emotional storytelling is something you want more of, feel free to subscribe. Not because I'm asking, but because you want to keep walking this path with me.